What is going on? Welcome back to Jiu Jitsu Outlet. I'm sitting down with a return guest, my friend Nathan Brooks, the author, the entrepreneur, the real estate investor, the musician, the MMA fighter. You're like one of those kings who has like this list of titles, man. Thank you, bro, for coming on the show. I know you said that you just got in late from coaching someone last night. Man, thanks for taking the time to come on the show. Appreciate you, Nathan.
Oh, dude, appreciate you, Paul. Excited to be back on. I look forward. You know how like Joe Rogan, he has these guys on like all the time. I feel like maybe we could really start this new, opportunity here together.
I would love that, man. That's actually something I want to do on the show more is have people back and really like build the relationships and go deeper because every time that we do an episode of the show, I always after the conversation, I'm always feeling like, man, I could talk to this person all day. I could talk to them forever. So I'm really glad that you came back. And today we're going to go and talk specifically about your new book, which I love. It's a fantastic book. So it's called The No Quitter's Guide to Crushing Real Estate Investing and Building an Extraordinary Life. And I love how in the book you talk about how your publisher said that name is too long. And you were like, no, it has to be like there's every single word in that is very intentional. So can we start off with that? Like, I just want to hear about, especially the part that you talk about a lot in the book is living your life with intentionality, living an extraordinary life, very much on purpose, and not letting anything get pushed aside. Like you're a very intentional person. So can we start there? Like, what does it mean to you to live a life of intention?
First of all, I think it's hilarious that you brought up the comment in the book because yes, I had many people who were like, "Oh, you should shorten that." I'm like, "No, I shouldn't." I got it as far down as I can get it. But I think living a life of intention is all about. First, you have to know like what that intention is. For me, I find it in a couple different ways, but each quarter I really think about like something family based, something personal, individual, like me based, and something business based. And I really focus and have intention there. So that's one way. The other way is just, from a consciousness level of like do every day. And that might sound a little woo woo, but in truth, like, so I've spent, today is March 3rd. I started February 1st, taking a month off from drinking alcohol. Somebody who really enjoyed having a cigar, having bourbons, drinking wine with dinner, being out, all these kind of things. And I realized I had no intention behind it. Like, so in the spirit of that question. And so literally that was the moment I finally realized and made the connect between like, just because you show up in a place that has a bar doesn't mean you need to have a drink. And so the first week was, a little more complicated for me, because every time I'm in a space, where I normally would just order a drink or whatever, but I now had intention to say like, no, we'll take 30 days off. Let's see how we feel. Let's see how we perform. And guess what? Like crushing it in the gym, better sleep, feeling better, more clear. And then all of a sudden, like the result of that intention was also to listen. And so I think, that's a beautiful part about creating intention, is because then not only do we have a focus on something, but we're also looking to receive the results back. We want that information back.
I love that, man. I think that you're hitting on something really big there. Like whenever we set the intent and we plan out our lives, we step into the creator perspective where we're tapping into kind of what you talked about with this, tapping into a higher level of consciousness where you're able to then become a force in your world instead of being affected by everything. Like you're the cause in your reality instead of just being pushed around energetically by everything around you, man. It's powerful. I wanted to ask you too, like something that you talk about in the book is how you had achieved all this success as an investor. You had all the material wealth and the material success, but then you realized that you weren't actually living the life, like you weren't actually living your bucket list life, if that makes sense. Like you weren't actually living that life saying like, what do I specifically want to do? How do I actually want to spend my time? And I feel like that really kind of, that's a big mindset shift that you talk about in the book, is kind of going from just, doing what the world thinks is successful and into, what do you actually want to do? Like, what do you actually want to do? Can you go a little deeper on that and just tell us a little bit more about, like, what was that mindset shift like for you? And like, was there anything that kind of triggered it in your life?
Yeah, well, I think that it kind of shows up for me. Well, not kind of, it definitely shows up for me in the moments that were like creating pain or tension. And so instead of just like, oh, this is how life is, this is how, things happen, this is whatever, instead, like, there's a moment that, hey, I'm not enjoying this conversation, or it's not serving a purpose, for me, for my life, for the way I want to live it. And so I started being, back to the word intention, like I started being more intentional about, like, hey, what are we saying yes to? What are we saying no to? It's okay to do that. And it's okay. I remember showing up at my office and like not wanting to interact with the people like that were working at our company, and not wanting to be there, and not liking the vibe and the culture of that, and realizing like, hey, thank you, Jocko Willink. It's my fault. I created this, and now I have to actually do something about it. And so, I think from there, it kind of expands beyond just like, what am I doing for work? But like, how do I want to spend my day? Like, what are the things I'm willing to spend my time on? Am I willing to give up it, vast amounts of time to not be home and see my kids and hang out with them and go do fun things? And so, the more I thought about it, the more I was willing and willing to like to be in tune with the feeling of it. And is this something that feels like I really should be spending my time on? Or am I having some, reservation about it, or that I don't want to do it? Or I'm feeling like, Nathan, you should do this because blank, blank, like, no, we're going to stop there and we're going to reassess what's actually showing up.
What would you say to someone who maybe is in a situation where they have to do something that they don't want to do? They have that feeling of, oh, this isn't something that I'm supposed to be doing, but they feel like they might be trapped in a situation. Like, a great example is the 22-year-old version of myself, who was in the military, and I had signed a 6-year contract, and I realized it wasn't for me about a year into the 6-year contract. I was like, man, this is not for me. I made a mistake. I should not have signed, because I actually signed a longer contract to get my MOS, to get the job that I wanted in the military, even though my ROTC cadre, like my leadership, advised me not to. They were like, don't sign this contract. But I was like, I'm 22. I know whatever. I know what to do, right? So I signed the longer contract. And then a year in, I was like, screw this. Like, this is not for me. I should not have signed that. So, I was able to kind of get myself out of that. But I know there's a lot of people who are stuck in something like that, whether it's a 9 to 5 or, some business that they built for themselves where they feel trapped, or like, a government contract, or something like, or someone who's maybe, 15 years into a job where 5 years from now they're going to get a pension and they feel like they're trapped. Like, there's so many of these people where they're like, that, I know I'm not supposed to be doing this, but I feel like I have to. Like, what would you say to those people who are in that sort of a position?
Well, first of all, I would say we get to be kind and gracious to ourselves, because a lot of times we get in this loop of like, you know, dumbass, like, what did you do that? What is your issue? Why would you think that's okay? And so we get into this like self-defeating thing that's not healthy at all. And so it's really important to like honor yourself in that moment too, and say, hey, either we made just a bad decision, or we didn't have the right information, or, I've had where I've done business deals where I'm like, man, I totally blew this, like completely blew it, Paul. And so in those moments, we get to come to ourselves and say, all right, well, I'm going to give myself some, and say like, what now are what's the actual information? So like in your situation, you signed a contract with the government, bro. Like, what are my actual options? But I think in the same time honoring the commitment that you made. Just like my children who are like, "Hey, Dad, I'm not really enjoying this thing that we signed up for." Well, like, sorry, dude. Like you agreed to this. And then I also think they're, the people that are working those jobs and they're like, gosh, like you said, I know a number of people who are like 15 years in, like you said, for a job that they expect to be able to have, a pension or whatever, want to have the change. How bad do you want to get out of it? That I've talked to, they don't want it bad enough to get out. They just want it. They want it bad enough to complain. They want it bad enough to like tell everybody else how bad their life is. Whine, 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 whine. Come save me. Life isn't fair to me. Blah blah blah. And I think that it's a disastrous mindset, and it also takes zero responsibility. And so we get to name it like, you know what? I actually just don't want to work for somebody else, and I'm going to suffer and call it what it is in this job, or I'm going to actually take action and do something different and figure it out in a different way. And I think that really comes down to someone's, willpower and their intention and their willingness to get uncomfortable to create something that they want to experience.
Yeah. I think, man, that's so much wisdom in what you said. And it goes back to what Jocko says about ownership. Like, you got to take extreme ownership of everything and all your decisions. And you got to realize too, that there is some sort of a divine plan. There's some sort of a higher purpose and something bigger going on here. And that, at the end of the day, like, there's something bigger happening here that we're all a part of. And I think there is a plan somehow for all of this. And if you're in a position, maybe you're just in that position to either survive it and learn a lesson, or like you said, maybe you're supposed to say, you know what, I'm going to take this risk. I don't care that I've only got 5 years on my pension. I hate this job. I'm getting out. And maybe you think you can make more money doing something else, like becoming an entrepreneur, starting a business, investing in real estate. Like, there's so many ways to make money these days. And there always have been. It's just a matter of mindset and education. And that's something that you talk about a lot in the book as well, just to bring it back, is the team, and having a community, having a tribe. Like, this is something you go to over and over and over again in the book. You talk about your team. And even when we were scheduling this call to have you on this podcast, I was like, hey, Nathan, does this time work? And you were like, oh, talk to Kelly. I don't even touch my calendar. Like, go talk to Kelly to book the podcast. So like, everything in your life. And when I went to your book launch event, I could just tell, like, you had a big team there supporting. Like, I could tell it was not just you who put together that event. Like, even at the, you had your family helping out, put the event together. You had people in your network. Like, just every single interaction I've had with you has emphasized the team, I guess, team element again, over and over in your book. It's a team. And to take this over to martial arts, thinking about martial arts as an allegory for life. Like, you need a coach. Like, it's right there on the board behind you, the word coach. Yep. So I know this is something you're big on. So can you talk a little bit more about like the value of coaching and having a team, both in martial arts and life and business, just everything? Like, what are some tips that you could give for someone who might be looking to kind of build that sort of a team that you have?
Absolutely. And you're totally right. And there's a great book called Who Not How. And it's an amazing book that talks about like when you don't enable and give opportunity and space for people who are more gifted or more, like have the desire to solve those problems, you're actually taking from those people that opportunity to serve in the way that is what they were put on the planet for. So it's really a mindset shift between saying like, oh, I have to do all these things, and like I'm literally going to give opportunity. And of course it comes with challenge too, right? We need to have a clear process. We need to understand how to do it. Like, how do you book a podcast, and who do we book, and when do we book it, and how do we put on the calendar? So there's different problems that come up, but I always say like, I want to solve better problems. So I'm willing to solve better problems. Coaches make the biggest impact because they have that knowledge, they have that desire. And as long as you have the right coach, they can literally help you go from the point A to point B in a much faster, much more graceful, much less painful, except if it's jujitsu or martial art, right? You're definitely going to still have that. But, it's one of those things where a coach makes all the difference, and you have somebody to actually run that by. And I know for me in the martial arts journey, you know, there are just moments that you don't expect or don't anticipate or don't know what to do with. And to be able to have somebody else there who says like, hey, it's all right, man. Like, it's okay. Let's work back through that, or let's work through that. Darce. I've been crushing the Darce lately, bro. It's so fun when you start like hammering something all the time. And so yeah, then you get to like refine, and guess what? Go back to your coach. Help me refine. Help me understand. And the deeper we get, the more interesting and detailed questions we can get. So coaches make all the difference.
I love what you said. It's almost like the longer you go, the better questions you can ask. And
Mhm.
because you're more educated, you have a better understanding. And really, it's all about what questions can you ask in life. Like, and
Yeah.
I think you talked about this at your event. I think you mentioned it in the book a few times that like it's all about asking the right questions. So we do have to wrap this interview up, Nathan, but I think I'd like to end with that. What questions do you think people could be asking better? Like, if people are, I guess, worded differently, like what's a good decision-making process that people could go through to learn how to ask better questions of themselves, their team, their coach, just everything. Like, do you have anything that works for you when it comes to asking better questions or researching?
Well, thinking about asking better questions, I love this. I love this question. And it's something that I think about rephrasing questions or rephrasing problems a lot. And so, for instance, it'd be like, Paul, are you struggling with jujitsu? That's a yes or no question, right? That's it's a very low impact, low result question. Or I could say, of the training that you've done, Paul, in the last 4 to 6 weeks, what is the biggest challenge you have in jujitsu? And what would be if you had one thing that you think would make an impact, what would it be? Right. So open-ended question, much more high detail, much more like pinpoint on the question. And I mentioned to you, I was in a coaching I was in a client's office yesterday in Indianapolis. And you know as a coach, your responsibility is ask great questions, because you're not necessarily there to just like spout out answers. You're a mirror, and you're a reflection of a feeling, of a problem, of an intonation, or what's going on. And so to be able to ask questions, and this is something we can work on. So go read Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference. Think about how you structure questions. Think about the words that are coming out of your mouth. And it's just like jujitsu. It's just like running. It's just like writing. It's a practice. Like, it's a mental practice. And it's something that I spend a lot of time on. So I think we can, and if you're not sure what to do, write out your question. Is this a yes or no question? Okay, great. What's a deeper question of what I want? Okay, write that out.
Man, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate you. And is there anything else that you want to tell us about the No Quitters Guide to Crushing Real Estate Investing and Building an Extraordinary Life? Is there any question about this book that you wish I had asked you that I did not ask?
I don't know if there's a question that I think we're missing. I would just say, some of the feedback that I've gotten has been, even people that weren't big real estate people who read it found a lot of help, because it was able to go from like the question that you ask is chapter 1, it starts with this question, like, you don't have to be really into real estate to want to change your life. And it's really helpful to create a vision around what you want to create in your life, and then create a plan around that, and ask great questions, right? What do I want to do? How do I want to spend it? What do I want my calendar to look like? Who do I want to be around? How do I want to spend that time? And then I think the last piece is, that I include in the people that we want make an impact with, and how we can create not just something great for our own life, but create something great for other people, and not just make it about ourselves. So I think that's important. And I love getting the feedback about the book, and hearing how it's been a positive impact for people.
Well, thank you, man. And it really has been a great impact on me. And I love that it's a great blend of mindset, but also tactics. So it does have the more storytelling side. Like it's autobiographical. Like, you know, you get to hear more about you and your life story and the mindset side of things, but then you also get very, very tactical, which is great. So I feel like most books are either one or the other. So this one, it's like it's both. You know, it successfully does both, which is great. So definitely go grab this book. I'm going to put the link down below to get it on Amazon. The No Quitter's Guide to Crushing Real Estate Investing and Building an Extraordinary Life by Nathan Brooks. Thank you, brother, for coming back on the show. And if you want to connect with Nathan, I'll put all the links down below. Nathan, is there anything else you wanted to share with us before we wrap this up?
Oh man, I'm just grateful to be on here with you, Paul. I'm working on that. If you are interested in real estate, we are relaunching a online meetup. It's we have almost 13,000 people in this thing. It's called Bridge Meetup, Bridge Real Estate Investing Meetup on Facebook and bridgemeetup.com. So it's been awesome just like seeing more and more people connect and solving problems, just which so well coordinates with our podcast today. But yeah, everything's good, man. Thanks for sharing with us.
Nathan, thanks for coming on the show. And if you want to join the group and get connected, I'll put the link down below. And definitely go buy Nathan's book on Amazon and help him out. I know you're launching this, so every sale counts. But
yes, it does.
Every sale counts. So Nathan, thanks for coming back on the show, man. I appreciate you, and you have a wonderful day.
As well, my friend. Thank you.